want you to understand something, Jerry. I don't like it when people know about me. In fact, I don't like it when anybody knows about me. So you can take that newspaper of yours and wipe off your dick with it.
3 O'Clock High, from 1987, directed by Phil Joanoa and starring Casey Siemaszko and Richard Tyson. About a kid named Jerry who gets challenged to a fight after school at 3 o'clock by Buddy Revell, the new kid. This movie starts off with Jerry waking up. He's getting ready for school. He's running kind of behind. So he and his little sister Bree, they're heading out the door. And on their way, they also pick up his friend Franny, who's actually kind of weird, by the way, but we'll get into that. When they pick up Franny, Bree says, like, hey, why are you all dressed up in black? And she says, oh, I just have a feeling it's going to be one of those days. Now, Jerry was rushing this morning because he's the manager of the school supply store. So they get to the school, it's 8 o'clock, and already you're seeing like the whole school with like rumors and murmurs going around about a new kid named Buddy Revell who's going to be starting there today. And they didn't have a lot of things to say about him that was good.
I'm telling you, this new guy is supposed to be a total psycho. Actually broken out a kid's neck in his last school. Then he got kicked off the football team before he now even uncoached.
So as these rumors are going around throughout like the whole school, it shows Bree and Jerry in the school supply store, and so she's telling Jerry a few things. And so that's when they look out the window and they notice someone pulling up.
What's this guy's name anyway?
His name's Buddy Revell.
In comes Mr. Rice, and he's played by Jeffrey Tambor. He goes over to Jerry to see how they're doing, and he was like, oh, we're doing great. We made a $470 profit. And he tells him, like, hey, this is a lot of money, so make sure you deposit this after school. And then after he leaves, he is approached by this beautiful, popular girl named Karen.
Excuse me.
Hi, can I?
Help me. I'd like some notebook paper.
Paper? Any kind in particular? I could show you something in standard, a nice college rule model, legal pads, funnel pads, spiral pad, white,
Just
yellow.
regular would be fine.
And she's also asking for a pen. And so he's like, ooh, try this pen. You could write upside down, like if you're doing homework in bed. And she's like, I don't do homework in bed. So they do their transaction. He opens up the cash register and then closes it back, but she needs change. So he's trying to open it again, but it gets stuck. And so he's like struggling, but then she's finally like, that's okay. And so 9 o'clock rolls around. So he's going to his first class, which is like the school paper room or whatever that he's a part of. And so the teacher, she has a very interesting assignment because she too also heard some rumors and murmurs about the new kid, Buddy Revell. But she says that it's not fair to like look at somebody without like getting to know them. So she wants to do like a paper on like getting to know somebody better to get them more comfortable in the school. And so who does that assignment go to? Jerry. And of course, Jerry's like super nervous about this, and he's just like, he excuses himself to go to the bathroom. And by the way, he does this like throughout the whole movie. So he's at the urinals, and then in comes Buddy Revell. He's like standing next to him, and they're going to the bathroom, and they have this like super awkward exchange because he's just like thinks that it's a good time to just go ahead and introduce himself. And, you know, Buddy's just kind of like, you know, ignoring him at first. But then Jerry tells him like, oh, he's been assigned to like write something about him in the paper. And of course this annoys Buddy, and he doesn't like that at all. He's like, I don't want anyone knowing about me. Jerry does agree, and he thinks it's kind of a dumb assignment. But what Jerry doesn't know is that part of the rumors that, well, actually this isn't a rumor, this is true. Part of the thing that's been going around is that Buddy does not like to be touched. And so Jerry, you know, goes in and he's just like, hey, let's just forget this conversation ever happened. He pats him on the shoulder.
We're gonna have a fight today after school. 3 o'clock in the parking lot. You try and run, I'm gonna track you down. You go to a teacher, it's only gonna get worse. You sneak home, I'm gonna be under your bed. You and me. 3 o'clock.
So it's on. He challenged him to fight after school at 3 o'clock. And so Jerry goes back to class, and his best friend Vince and Franny are there. And so he lets them know what happened. So at this point on, Jerry's just going to try to find like any kind of reason that he can to get out of this fight. So the first thing he does is right after the bell rings, he goes back to Buddy, like at the lockers. And he's just like, hey, I don't want to fight you. Like, I can't fight. And Buddy's just like, too bad, so sad, 3 o'clock, be there. And Vince noticed that Buddy was holding like the combination to his lock, like on the paper. So he's like memorizing it for something that's going to happen here in a moment. So Jerry goes to his next class, which is science. And like during science, there's like this really gross video of like insects and like, like nature. And like in the video, it shows the insects like eating each other out of dominance and stuff. And so Karen's actually sitting next to him, and she, like the whole school just already knows at this point that like there's going to be a fight after school. So she asks him about it, and like Jerry's watching the video, and of course he like gets sick from the video, so he excuses himself once again. But in the hallway, he sees Vince standing in front of Buddy's locker trying to like figure out the combination. And so Jerry goes up to him and he's just like, what are you doing? This is Buddy's locker. Like, what are you doing? And so Vince, he has a knife that he's going to plant in Buddy's locker to try to like get him in trouble so that like he could avoid this fight. He gets the locker open, throws the knife in there and shuts it back. But Jerry's like pleading with him, like, no, we can't do this. We can't do this. And of course, Vince is trying to like open the locker back up, but suddenly he just like forgets the combination. And of course the bell rings, so they're like too late. Also during this short time, Vince also had the time to like write a note and leave it into the principal's office too about the knife. So 10 o'clock rolls around and there's a pep rally like right in the middle of the day. And I have to say that like this pep rally was like pretty dark. So he freaks out at the pep rally. So he runs off once again, and he's in the bathroom in like one of the stalls. And so like he thinks that Buddy is actually in the bathroom. So he's just kind of like hiding, but it turns out it's just two fellow students that are grilling him about the fight and asking him all kinds of questions. So Jerry's just like, no, leave me alone. And he runs out. And so he actually runs to his car, but then he discovers something in there. And so he tries to start the car, but it wouldn't start. So then he like gets out and checks the hood, and like all the wires have been cut. And so like he puts the knife in his pocket, and so he's kind of walking like back towards the school. And then he's stopped by security, who, by the way, takes his job way too seriously. He chases after him, and then like, once Jerry's cornered, he like runs up to him and he discovers the knife, and so he takes him to like the head security dude. So once he's in that office, the head guy named Solinsky, he's like grilling him about the knife and like what's up. And so Jerry, he's like honest with him. He like tells him exactly what happened. But he's like, he doesn't really believe him. He's just like, you know what? And he asks for his like permanent record. And so like the secretary gives it to him. And so he's just like, you've never had any absences, or like there's nothing in your permanent record, and I think that's very suspicious, so I'm going to keep an eye on you. So 11 o'clock rolls around, and he runs into Vince, and Vince tells him that he got the note back. And that's when Jerry finds out that a lot of the students are like placing bets on the fight.
I wouldn't make that bet if I were you.
Hey, Jerry, do you cut easy? Because there's good odds going in the Stitches category.
Stitches category?
Yeah, it's something the accounting club came up with for this fight. You see, you bet on how many stitches it's going to take to fix Jerry's face.
So Jerry has another plan, and it's to find this guy named Craig, who's like this big jock. And so he has a conversation with him, and he asks him like, hey, can you help me out? I'm, like, this guy named Buddy is wanting to fight me at 3, and like, I'm really hoping that you could help me, and like, you could fight him instead for me. And so Craig is just like, like, yeah, I'll do it, but like, you have to pay me. And so he said for $450. And so Jerry is just like, I don't have $450. But then he gets the idea he's going to actually get that money from the school supply store. So he runs to the store to like get the cash register open, but it's still stuck from like this morning. So then he tries to break it open, and then so after that chaos, he gets the register open and he gets the money out. And so around 12 o'clock, he's sitting in class, and he's interrupted by Mr. Rice, who pulls him out of class, and they walk over to the store, and he shows him that the whole store is destroyed and all the money's gone. And he also lets them know that since there was so much money involved, and that's like a felony offense. And so now Jerry's even more nervous. However, around 12:15, Vince goes and finds him, and he says that Craig is about to square up to Buddy, who's reading in the library.
Hey, you were the puss. Always bled.
I hear you're giving Jerry Mitchell a hard time, man.
Yeah. It's gonna get even harder.
You are gonna do shit to him, asshole.
And seeing what Craig looked like, it made Jerry like sick, so back to the bathroom. And then Vince catches up to him, and he tells him like, hey, Craig feels bad, so like, he gave the money back, but I let him have 100 of it. And so Jerry gets mad at him, and he's just like, no, I need that money. And so then they have an argument, because it's like Vince was like trying to have his back, and what Craig went through, then it's like he deserved a little bit of that money. And so he storms off. But Bree, his little sister, happened to be there too, and so she has an idea for him. So her idea is that if he got into trouble and got detention after school, then he wouldn't be available to fight Buddy at 3 o'clock. And so he's like, oh my God, that's a good idea. So 1 o'clock comes around, and it's his English class, and he has like a book report to like say in front of the class. But Jerry finds this opportunity to light up a cigarette and give one hell of a book report.
There I was, in bed, reading my book. Honey's adventures gripping my imagination. I just knew I had to tell you about a book that was this good. Hey, Mom.
Jerry, I hope this is going somewhere.
It's going somewhere.
And then they have a makeout sesh in front of everyone in class, and then it causes him to faint. And so he wakes up in the nurse's office, and then he asks the nurse, like, hey, where does Miss Farmer want me to serve my detention? And she's just like, she didn't say anything about detention, but she did say that you had the best book report in class, and she wants you to call her later. So since that backfired, he leaves the nurse's office, and then he bumps into Karen, who's, by this point, everyone has like heard about his little like book report all over the school. And so she's just like, I heard what happened in Miss Farmer's class, and I wanted to invite you to like a party this weekend at my place. And though Jerry's flattered, he's just like, oh yeah. And then he like runs to the school store, and then who's waiting for him there is Franny. She also wants to have, I guess, a piece of him as well, because then she's just like, you and I need to bond. And then she goes in for a makeout. And of course, after they made out though, she like oddly, like she like feels very weird about it. And then she's like runs off. After that, Mr. Rice comes in with a detective, and basically the detective tells Jerry that something like this is usually an inside job, so he's going to stay on his toes. 2 o'clock rolls around, and it's math class. And so Jerry's sitting there, and he's accompanied by Buddy. He sits up next to him, And so there's like this quiz that the teacher's passing out. And so they're working on their quiz. And so Jerry notices that Buddy's kind of like looking over at him. And so Jerry slides his paper to the edge of his desk. And so that's when Buddy starts writing. And so eventually they're caught by the teacher, and then they both end up in the principal's office. And so the principal wants answers. And so Jerry tells the principal, well, I was cheating off of Buddy's paper. And so at first, the principal doesn't believe him, but he goes ahead and writes like a math problem on the chalkboard, and he tells Buddy to solve it. And so he says, if Buddy can't solve this, then we're going to have a huge problem. So after Buddy is excused, the principal warns Jerry that if he keeps this up, there's going to be consequences. And then Jerry catches up to Buddy, and he wants to call a truce, but Buddy's like, no deal. And that's when Jerry's like, I'll pay you $350 if you leave me alone. And so Buddy's just like, $350? And so he ends up taking the money, but then he turns around and insults Jerry, like, I can't believe that you pussed out and you didn't even try. Like, what does that say about you? And then he like walks off. And so after Jerry does a little bit of thinking, he actually changes his mind and he goes back to Buddy.
I'm no pussy, asshole. The fight is on, you and me in the parking lot, 3 o'clock.
So 3 o'clock rolls around. It's the final moment. Everyone's heading to the parking lot after the bell rings, and Buddy actually has these brass knuckles that he plans to use. And when I say the entire school is in this parking lot, there's like thousands of kids in this parking lot. And so Jerry and Buddy are about to like approach each other, but they're interrupted by the principal. The principal says there's not going to be a fight today. And so I guess he's one of the ones that forgot about Buddy's no touchy policy. And so he grabs Buddy by the arm, and that set him off. He knocks the principal out. And then Franny comes out of nowhere, and he like shoves her aside. And so Jerry's next.
Come on, you asshole. Come on, you peckerhead, let's see what you got.
And Buddy is stopped yet again by the security people. They also violated the no touchy policy. And so they try to grab him by the arm, and Buddy like knocks him out cold too. And as he's approaching Jerry, he actually gets one good hit and causes his nose to bleed. But Buddy punches back and he falls to the ground. And when he's about to get closer to him, then Vince comes out of nowhere, jumps all over him, and it causes his brass knuckles to fall to the floor, which Bree sees. And so she grabs it and gives it to Jerry. So they go back to their final square off, and so Jerry's getting encouragement from like the crowd. So in their final moment, Jerry has those brass knuckles, takes a swing at Buddy, knocks him down. And the whole crowd cheers. And so actually this is the time when the detective pulls up, and he's wanting to take Jerry in for questioning, but the principal interrupts him, and he's like, no, he's had enough for today, so you'll just speak with him in the morning. And so the detective says like, yeah, I'll be here in the morning. So the next morning, Jerry is at the school store, and he's still worried about where he's going to get the money. And so that's when all the students actually end up like pitching in, and they start buying paper from him. So after he's selling papers and pens and other supplies left and right, the crowd suddenly goes silent, and in comes Buddy. Like, he approaches Jerry. And then after Buddy leaves, Karen comes in out of nowhere. And she's just like, I can't wait to see you at my party. And then finally, in comes Miss Farmer. And she goes in for another makeout sesh.
Unbelievable.
And after that wildly inappropriate exchange, that's the end of the movie. And then while the credits are rolling, the students around the school have new rumors, but this time it's about Jerry and exaggerates like that he challenged Buddy to a fight and that he's a bad guy, like in a rebellious kind of way. So yeah, 3 O'Clock High is one of those movies that could not be made today, or they'd have to change an awful lot of stuff. But I personally liked this movie. And actually, there's a Korean remake of this movie called See You After School that's also worth a watch if you could find it streaming anywhere. But anyway, I want to hear from you. Did I forget anything? Comment below. Have you seen this? What do you think? Let me know.
You tell all your little friends there's no escaping the Duker. You got that?
Yes.